Yo, people, what is going on, man? What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are doing well. We got a lot to go through later on and today with Gabriel Jesus. So let me just get some stuff sorted up and then we can have a conversation. How are all of you guys doing on, man? Hope you guys are doing well. Yeah, I thought we'd get together and talk about what needs to be discussed today. There's a lot of things going on with Gabriel Jesus. I want to get everybody's kind of thoughts, see what's in you guys' heads, what we should do, what do you think we're going to do, what is probably the best thing to do, and we're going to look at all those scenarios. So for me, guys, I just want to get some housekeeping out of the way first, so we all know what's going on with the polls. Obviously, I've let you guys try to get your say, have your say, and in that respect, we are. Look, I've got Vincey coming in at the moment now. Vincey, how you doing? Let me just put it over there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not bad, man. Not bad yourself.
Yeah, good man, good, good, good. I'm just running through a little bit of housekeeping now with them guys, talking about a couple of polls that they did. First polls, guys, we talked about. Actually, this isn't the one that I wanted to have a look at first, so let me go to the next one. Let's have a look at the screen. Here we go. Everything cool with you, Vincey?
Yeah, not bad. Good thing I was just watching something with the missus, and I just looked at the time and thought, boy.
Yeah, no, we ain't going to be long. This is really just about mainly for us to discuss Jesus, and we're going to just go through a couple of, what do we think of what we should do, what would we like to do, and what do we think what they're going to do. But let's just want to go through some housekeeping here with you guys, because obviously you guys are the ones that are pushing the channel. So I want to talk about what you guys think of this whole scenario first. The first poll that we had, guys, with you guys is who was Arsenal's player of the month for November. 54% of you said Odegaard, and that's a good shout considering. Isn't it funny how everybody was saying he weren't playing well and now he's our top scorer? So I find that really ironic that the captain is leading the team and he's been voted player of the month from you guys. Second was Gabriel, which actually that's a decent shout. Third was Party. I actually thought maybe Party had picked it for number one for me. But you can't discount what Odegaard had done. And then Jesus is there with 11%. And then Ben White, 4%. I think that's a little bit harsh on Ben White because he's just been a stud. I can't actually remember giving him less than a 7.5. When you consider that we're talking about a right back, somebody who was playing centre back, who we paid 50 million for, and I've not even given him a grade lower than 7.5. That pretty much tells you all you need to know about the player. Vincey, who was your player of the month for November?
Interesting results here. Didn't Xhaka score most of his goals in November?
Maybe two of them weren't in the league, I think, so maybe that doesn't count. But I think Odegaard scored more than he did, yeah.
And Saka scored quite a few in November as well.
Yeah, I think actually Saka slowed down a little bit because he had that slow start, didn't he, in August, and then September and October were brilliant for him. He was my runner-up for October, and then
for me personally, I think Partey is probably the better shout for player of the month. I'm surprised Odegaard got so many. I mean, yes, he did score some goals, and some of the goals he scored in one game.
Yeah,
he didn't really have a good game, but he scored 2 goals. So, fans give him various different rating, but I think consistently, I thought Partey was exceptional for November for me.
And then we asked the 101 faithful who would win the World Cup, and Brazil came out top with 56%, and then second is Argentina. That is bonkers. But you know what? That's what everybody said. I think people think that this is Messi's year. And then 15% went with France. Obviously, behind them in fourth is England, and they play on Saturday. Spain with 1%, so it's probably maybe one person or two people said that Spain are out now, thanks to that amazing display by Morocco. But what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on who does this look right to you? I'm a bit miffed with the Argentina being 19%.
you know what? This is the start of the World Cup when you think about it. So, they probably didn't think, based on how the games went in the group stage, that it actually pan out the way how it is right
Yeah,
now.
because you can see here, I've put this poll was set up 2 weeks ago. So yeah, you're right.
So but again, I think people think Argentina were going to play better than the way they did. Brazil, obviously, Neymar, they've got flair all over that team. They've got a very good balanced squad. But I'm actually surprised England people haven't gone more for England, because I actually think England do have the team to cause a lot of countries problems once they score. And because we've now seen that they are scoring, the game that they have on Saturday against France, for me, is one that England shouldn't go in there fearful.
Yeah.
They've shown that they can score goals, as well as they've shown that they can really play bad. They're in a good vein of form, and where they can hurt France is definitely in the midfield and attack. I think France's midfield is poor. I think their defense is poor, but they've got an exceptional player in the likes of Mbappe, and Olivier Giroud is always dangerous in corners.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with. By the way, hey Tony, how you doing? I hope you're all right, mate. I hope things are doing well.
What's going on,
Team? I was having a conversation with Andy today, who's our Spurs panelist on a Friday night, and they were doing a France England first 11, and then I was saying to him, but Giroud's probably gonna go down for striker of the tournament at the moment, the way things are going, because he's just been fantastic. I think Harry Kane had a fantastic game. Slow start, but his last game, I thought Kane was fantastic. But overall, for the performances in every game, and remember, Giroud had that bicycle kick, that scissors kick disallowed, when Szczesny ran into his own player, which I felt, that reminded me of the Smith Rowe. Remember when Smith Rowe scored a goal against Man United, and De Gea ran into his own player? The referee said, that's not my fault. If you run into your own player, if it's head-to-head, then I'll stop the game because of a dangerous concussion. But De Gea just ran into his centre-back. So that's got nothing to do with Smith Rowe. Smith Rowe put the ball in the net. It was a goal. What we saw in this World Cup was the referee blew the whistle before Giroud did the scissors kick, and that's the reason why he couldn't just undo it. You know what I mean? That's probably the referee's mistake there. But yeah, Tony, you're joining a bit late. I was asking 2 questions. One was, who's your player of the month for November? And the second is, who do you think is going to win the World Cup?
Well, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I'm not actually watching the World Cup in any great depth. I pick and choose my games, but because I'm working during the day when most of the games are being played, I've missed out a load of group games. And to be honest, even some of the games in the evening, I'm training my kids at the boxing club. So again, I'm missing out on games. So I can't really honestly say I can give you an honest answer, because there are probably players who could be given plaudits, like, so for instance, Messi, who I haven't seen play one single minute yet.
Yeah. I thought he carried the team in the last game.
One good game.
Yeah, he had one good game, exactly, for me. It's not going to be enough to win the World Cup, but look, I'm going to be
never say never,
corrected.
bro. I mean, I don't think you can actually say a player who's underperforming in the group stages can be judged on just that, because it is just the group stages. When it comes to the real knockout, then other players will suddenly start to appear out of nowhere, and you'll suddenly find that, you know what, a player who you weren't looking at will become very interesting as a winner. I noticed in that same chat you're talking about, you mentioned Cody Gakpo.
Yeah.
Cody Gakpo has done really well in the group stages. How will he perform in the next round? he might just go suddenly
And that's
dead.
the thing.
And
That's important for him. Yeah.
I think
and it's funny. Sorry, Vince. I just wanted to say we're talking about individual players, and then when we look at Brazil, it's just like everyone turning it on, and that's what you're up against, really, if you want to win this whole thing. Go on, Vince.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think where Messi shone in his last game, I think Australia were literally just watching Messi. You know, he had too much room. They allowed him too much room to perform, and the other nations didn't do that. So I think
getting too much respect.
Yeah, it's going to be a different game against Holland. They're not going to give Messi that space. And also, one of the things I've been calling for is Di Maria to be dropped because he wasn't offering anything on that right flank, and that happened in the Australia game, and there was better balance for Argentina moving forward. So, you know, some of these coaches, just like Portugal, they had to be brave to drop these superstars like Ronaldo, and
look what happened when they dropped him. Look what happened.
That's just what you got to do now.
Tony, who was your player of the month
for November?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I said Partey, so did Vincey. Our panelists, our subscribers have said.
How many games did we play in November?
Oh, it's quite a few, mate.
It's okay to say Xhaka. It is okay on this channel to say Xhaka.
I'm not going to say Xhaka. I can't even think because I'm pretty certain I had Thomas Partey for October.
So we played 2-0 against Wolverhampton, 3-1 in the League Cup, mind you. That was Brighton. We played Chelsea, and we played in Zurich. Yeah, so we had 4 games.
4 games.
Yeah, we had 4 games.
Let me do a little bit of research here, and I'll let you know in about 5 minutes.
For me, it was Xhaka for October and Partey for November.
Yeah. All right, let's get rid of this, and then let's put the last one up, and then we can get into the meat and bones. Let me just put this one up and see what the guys are saying here. Right, so we then said, which is what we're here about. We're here to talk about what's going on with Gabriel Jesus. Big shout out to everybody out in the chat. Hit me up, man. Cam is saying Partey was player of the month for me, but I'd settle with Odegaard. And he says, say the plan was a wide player and a central midfielder in January. So say Mudryk and Danilo. Would you stay with that, or would you adjust the plan? If that was involving Cody Gakpo, then I would stay with it. But it's very difficult because now you need a striker, and Gakpo plays as a 9, 11, and a 7. He can play on the left, right, and through the middle. And so it's nice to have an option like that. But we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. And let's get this out of the way first. So the first question I said, actually I did this about 3 days ago. So I said, with Jesus' injury being out from 3 to 5 weeks, at that point we didn't know what the prognosis was. What should Arsenal do? 60% of you said go and buy a striker. 40% said we have Nketiah and Martinelli. And then the news broke, which everybody's now aware of in the Arsenal community, that he's going to be out. They haven't put a date on it, and the reason for that is athletes, and I mean properly tuned, well, heavily trained athletes, have recovered from this within 6 or 7 weeks, within 2 months. However, doctors do prescribe it is a 3-month recovery. And again, guys, we know that there wasn't a break, there wasn't a tear, yeah? So I don't think it's as serious as some people are making it out to be, because Brazil even said there wasn't a tear and a break, and Arsenal confirmed that. However, there must have been something there for them to decide to have surgery, and they acted really quick on it. So well done to Arsenal for that. You know, regardless of what happened in Brazil, it was down to Arsenal to make the right decision for the player. That being said, now we know he's going to be out, and I said there's no date for this, so he could come back in February, could come back in March. We don't know. That being said, we did a poll with you guys to say if we were to go out and buy a player in the new year, who would that player be? Would it be Vlahovic, Tammy Abrahams, Gakpo, Ivan Toney, Calvert-Lewin? 37% of you said Gakpo. Remember, he's got a 60 million release clause in his contract. 33% said Vlahovic. Still some Vlahovic fans out there. 24% said Ivan Toney. Big shout out to you, T-Cox. 7% said Tammy Abrahams, African Guna, big fan of Tammy Abrahams, wants him, and he wants to come home as well. He's made it clear he wants to come back and play in the Premier League. And nobody said Calvert-Lewin. So, Tony, let me get your thoughts on this. Which one of those would you choose? Which one is in your ballpark?
As an out-and-out striker, Vlahovic, if he was available, Ivan Toney, a very close second.
And what about you, Vincent?
I'm conflicted here. Tony obviously is the ideal answer, but for me, Vlahovic is a non-starter. He's not coming to Arsenal. But,
so before you answer, I'll tell you why I went for Gakpo. One, because he's 23. Two, because he presses hard. He backtracks. Three, he plays all across the front line. And that is probably the most important reason because, as you know, Arteta wants players who are versatile, work hard, are leaders, and are productive. And then the fourth thing for me is, and this is the most important question, what do you do with the player when Jesus is fit? So with that taken into account, if I go out and buy an out-and-out striker, you're pretty much stuck with a player who can only play in one position. Whereas if you have a Gakpo, if you have someone who can play as a striker, like Martinelli, we know Nketiah is next man up, Martinelli is the third option. The fact that we even have Martinelli and can talk about him playing at the number 9 and Smith Rowe can go out on the left is something that Arteta's built and planned for. So this is something he's planned for. With Gakpo, that's another piece of the puzzle that when Jesus comes back, you can play Gakpo as Martinelli's backup. You can just intertwine the two. You can't use the word backup. And I don't like using that word because if you look at Pep Guardiola, can we say Mahrez as a backup? Can we say Grealish? Can we say, you see what I'm saying? You play and you rotate your players because that's what you need to do to win a title. It takes more than 11 men to win a premiership title. So for me, that's why I went for Gakpo, because you can do a lot more with him when Jesus comes back. Whereas if we go and choose anyone else on this list, then guess what? They're sitting on the bench and they're playing in the FA Cup.
I mean, I understand your logic, but this is my issue with the situation. I've spoken about it many times. If Arsenal, there's a difference between us as fans in what we want, as opposed to where the Arsenal board and the management are going through, because they see themselves as a stage in the process as to, with 5 points now at the top of the league. They didn't expect to be 5 points at the top of the league. So these players on this list, if we started the season with any one of these strikers, then we'll be sitting in this situation as saying first man up, any one of these guys, 5 points up in the league now, it's fine. We don't have a problem. But for us to go out now and buy these guys, I just don't think the board and our is ready to make that decision. Because as you said, they've just given Nketiah a contract. They've got Martinelli to come. Any of these guys now we're going to go out and buy, their guys are looking and sitting and thinking, hang on, what's going to happen to me? So we kind of in a conflicted situation because they put all their eggs in one basket with Jesus, and we've overperformed at the first half of the season. And injuries happen, but I don't think they've thought about really what's going to happen if Jesus gets injured, because as fans, we want now a striker to be bought for us to kick on and win the league. I think Arteta can, in his mindset, he's still aiming for top 4. That's where I am with the situation with our striker.
Yep. So, guys, let's get on to the main meat and the bones of this situation. It's a bad situation, guys. It's our worst fears. And is it a blow to our title hopes? Nobody can really answer that, because two reasons for me, and these are big two reasons. Number one, which is the most important, is it takes 11 men to win a title, not one. The second reason is that obviously he's gone through 9 games or something like that without scoring, but what he does without scoring and away from that is very important to the team as well. The way how he sets up, the way how he holds onto the ball. He's got 5 assists. That as much as I love Eddie Nketiah, Eddie isn't that guy who's going to get you the assist. But Eddie can press. He can work hard. He will backtrack and drop into the midfield and help out those guys. He'll score you goals. Eddie, in fact, has probably got more goals per 90 minutes than Jesus has. So that's got to tell you something about Eddie as a goal scorer. I don't doubt Eddie scoring goals. I don't doubt him working hard. I don't doubt him with his link-up play. And I'm hoping that what we'll see again is an improvement in that, in terms of him and his assists. But it's funny how Arsenal fans have got short memories, because it was just a couple of months ago that Lacazette was replaced by him, and he had 5 goals in the last 8 games, and got 2 Man of the Match awards in that time as well. So he's 22 years old. This is what Eddie wants. We're not going into an unknown commodity here. We know Eddie can do it. There's no question. He's shown us he can do it. The difference is the team has changed slightly. So it's not so much as dependent on him. When he replaced Lacazette, nobody was scoring. We had no goals from Martinelli. We had no goals from Smith Rowe. We had nothing from Odegaard. We had nothing from Saka. The whole team dried up into that run in the back end of last year. Now, everybody's scoring. Everybody's creating, and everyone's adding assists. Yeah, go across the board. Xhaka, Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, everybody's pulling their weight. So I think Eddie's actually in a better situation than what he was coming in on the back of last year. You can go, Tony, because I've said really what I needed to say in defense of that.
So I haven't got a problem with that scenario. What I have a problem with is if Eddie gets an injury in the first 10 minutes of the first game back, if Eddie gets an injury in one of the 3 friendlies that we're about to have in Dubai, we only have Gabriel Martinelli.
Yeah, you're right.
Who is also playing football for Brazil, potentially. So that's just way too thin. Way too thin. Yeah. And quite simply, Arsenal can ill afford to not have that. Because you haven't even got following Balogun. You haven't even got following Balogun.
They can bring him back off loan.
Yeah, guys, can we talk about it? Because I've got about 5 names to run through. So let's add him to the mix now. Let's talk about this. Let me put his name up there, because
I was gonna just say, Paulo, just before you, on the back of what Tony was saying, you mentioned about Eddie being a better situation for him coming into the team now. The difference that Jesus brings to the team is he allows us to move the ball with pace, with the runners coming on. I think we play the ball slower with Eddie in the team, and I think that's going to work towards not so much to our advantage. Eddie scores more goals, but how we move the ball at pace with the work that Jesus does is going to slow down with Eddie at the top, and it puts a lot of pressure on the likes of Odegaard and his running. And even though he does run, he's not at the pace of what Jesus is. So I think Arsenal will lose a lot in that department, because you've noticed when you move the ball quickly, it's just like it's lightning.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I actually thought when Lacazette was in the team that was the case, and when Eddie came in, we just looked assertive. We had hardly any shots on goal from Lacazette, and as soon as Eddie came in, which reminds me, let me get these 2 comments out of the way first. Cam says Eddie scores more per minute than Jesus. That's what I said. Says Arteta stuck him on the wings. You lose half of his effective. Yeah, I don't know why. I just couldn't understand. Me and Tony was getting frustrated with that on watch-alongs. Jesus played 90% of his time for Man United on the left, Man City on the left wing. Nketiah plays 100% of his time for Arsenal. I know in the academy he played on the left as well, so that's why they know he can do it. But for Arsenal as a senior, he's played up front. Arteta this season has played Nketiah on the wing and Jesus at the 9. And it's just like, bro, you're halving each player's effectiveness by doing that. And I didn't quite understand it. But even now, like months have gone, and I'm still kind of baffled at why tactically you did. And it didn't even work. It's not to say he did it and it worked. He did it and it didn't work. And he went back to the same biscuit from the biscuit tin. And it still wasn't. So I'm a little confused by that. I don't know where that leaves us now. But yes, I do agree with you. Right now, he toys with the operation. Yeah, look, like I said, every defender that has talked about Nketiah has said he's a nightmare. He's a nightmare. Yeah. Alfie, good speaking to you, Alfie. Alfie says, I think we need a striker in the summer. I love Eddie, but I don't know if he can take that step that Jesus has. So, I mean, that is a question a lot of fans are asking. But again, my point with that is, hasn't Eddie showed us that he's worth the contract that he's on at the moment now? And obviously replacing what Jesus does, I don't think Eddie's a million miles away from. Yes, he's not the same because just the footwork. I've not seen a player with the ball at his feet since Alexis Sanchez. Just the sheer trickery and just the way how he mesmerizes and loses defenders. I think that Eddie doesn't have that. He doesn't have it. But what Eddie does is Eddie has the mechanics and he has the pace and he has the intensity, he has the work rate, he has the defensive pressing, he has everything else, and he's 22. Eddie's still developing. And I've always been an advocate for that, as you guys know. I advocate for all of our young players, whether that was Saka when he was in the 18s, whether it's Reece Nelson, Smith Rowe before he went to Huddersfield. I was telling you lot, he's Ramsey's replacement, Aaron Ramsey's replacement. I advocate for all of our young players. It's a shame that our fan base doesn't share the same passion. I only have to go on our forum today, and all I see is like a lot of fans tearing down Eddie, and I'm just like, my God, it's almost like, did you not watch us on the back end of last season? It's baffling, but everyone and I kind of respect the fact that people have to have their own opinions, and we don't always share it. But I do understand now that there's a section of the fan base out there that doesn't think that Eddie is the answer, which is strange. Alfie says he has shown us how well he can do, but besides goals, Jesus brings something else. I agree with his presence, the way he builds, and it brings it obviously into the team. There's one thing I want to go before you guys carry on and we talk about Balogun. Let me just show you, because I need to get off the Eddie tip. So let me just do this here. Right. So I just want to show you one thing. I'll show you two things, actually. The first thing is, this is one of the games that Eddie played in last season where he got man of the match. And strangely enough, I know he got man of the match against Chelsea as well, and he scored 2 goals in that game. But this is a game that he didn't score in. I just want to show you what he does to the team. Now, what we saw here is Eddie in this game had 35 passes, 6 shots, 7 ball recoveries, and 24 sprints. I've left the top number out because the top number, and let me remind you, one game Harry Kane had 10 touches in the whole game. Yeah. Eddie had 51 touches in the whole game, which is more than any striker in the Premier League last season. Yeah. So just want to show you that what this guy has done for us. This isn't an F but or maybe, or this isn't us hoping or dreaming. This is reality. This is fact. Yeah. The guy is so busy and available with the way he moves, with the touches he makes, with the amount of passing and the way how he affects the game. Remember, this was the West Ham game in which he did not score a goal in. But what this does is it shows you the impact of what the player has when he's on the field. And my frustration this year is that he hasn't played enough. When we do the streams and we all sit together, sometimes you lot hear me sort of moan and groan saying, you know, I can't believe Eddie could have started in this game. But what I can say is Eddie, in terms of minutes, has played more. Because last year he used to come on for 4, 5, 6 minutes. Now sometimes he's coming on for 15, 20 minutes. So he definitely is getting more of a run out. The next thing I need to show you guys.
So before you take that stat away, can I just ask, did he play 90 minutes in that game?
Yes, he did, yeah.
Okay. So this is the thing. If you're looking at those stats, you're basically asking Nketiah to hit the ground running with those stats.
I think, you know what, great question. I think I was talking to an African Guna today, and he was saying in terms of, and Jamie Lee as well in the forum, and they were saying that it's a good thing we've got these games we're playing now with Juventus and the you know, a couple of games, because they're saying Eddie needs to hit the ground running, he needs to get a couple of goals. I know he scored a couple of days ago, didn't he? He scored with a header against Watford. Yeah, it was a great header actually, but he scored there, so he needs to get that right. And I agree with you. Needs to bag some goals in the next couple of games. Get yourself up to speed. So when West Ham, funny enough, we just talked about the West Ham game, and who are we playing on Boxing Day? West Ham.
Because those stats are going to be hard to maintain for somebody who hasn't been playing to come into the Arsenal team the way how we've been playing and consistently do that. And this is the challenge, because Tony says, you know, if he's not feeling 100%, you know, you're looking for him to play the next game because he's our main striker. So that's a tall order right now for Eddie to fill that void. I know we can score goals, but it's a lot.
Yeah, it is. And moving into this slide again, and guys, all we're doing here is we're looking at like for like, you know, if we get a player who can come in and fill in and do a job, that's all we're asking for. And we know that Eddie actually scores more goals than Jesus per 90 minutes. But what I wanted to show is this, and this is saying Premier League games for Arsenal since the April the 20th, yeah? And the question from Sky Sports here, and this is Sky Sports, you can see the banner up here, it says, can Nketiah stand in for Jesus? Well, I've already been saying that because his goals per minute is higher. You can see here, both of them, 5 goals, Jesus more shots on target, but this is what we're missing here, yeah? Big chances created and the assists. I think that's the thing that is concerning, is that, you know, he brings us so much more on the creativity side. But then to counteract, so does everybody else. You know, so all the and I made that point, didn't I? That the supporting cast now that Eddie's going to be stepping into is going to be way better than what he had when he had to come in. Him, El Nene, and Rob Holding literally had to come in on the back end of last year and carry us. Yeah, they had to carry us, and that was a tall task for them guys to do.
And I think just when you're saying regarding the supporting cast, that's where our football will change. So, as I said before, the running and the work that Jesus does, your Odegaard, those guys in the middle, they're going to have to do that work, because we know Nketiah can score goals. So what you're expecting from Jesus to do, the midfield guys are going to have to really, and they should be taking onus there.
Yeah,
putting in challenges, running. So we don't have Eddie. We don't want Eddie doing all of that. And then when he's in a position to score, he hasn't got the energy, because we know he can score.
So, Vincey, the other way we can look at this, and in terms of rotation, we know that we know Smith Rowe is back. Smith Rowe actually played against Watford as well. So that would be Smith Rowe on the left and Martinelli at the point, at the 9. There's also Fabio Vieira, Tony, who can play on the left. He can play, again, left or right, number 10, number 8. Very versatile player. And then, so... No, you can shake your head. You can shake your head all you like, but that's the matter of the fact is he can play in that creative role, and actually has probably been one of the players who has improved a lot over the last few games. I wouldn't say he's October and and September was great by any means, but he definitely has improved. I think the fan base have been saying that the last 2 games that Fabio Vieira has played have been much improved. Cam
the
says,
drop off, my friend. Just remember the drop off.
Yeah. Cam says, Vincey, let's remember Jesus hasn't scored in 10 games. Babu, good to see you. Says Eddie is a hard worker and presses pretty well. I think the only area Jesus tops him in is dribbling and taking on multiple defenders. I think he will cover Jesus' position well. Yeah, and again, there's the creative side of it, which we've talked about, which we can see up on here as well. Jesus has double the amount of take-ons completed than Eddie. But as I said, Jesus, look, guys, facts and reality. That's what we deal with here. Facts and reality. Jesus is a 4-time Premier League winner who's in his prime. That's who he is. Nketiah is a 22-year-old academy player who's just getting himself onto the scene. So
I think we need to drop. I think we need to drop the academy player. He's 6 years out of the academy.
Yeah,
6 years is you can no longer run with the tag academy player.
No, he's a homegrown player. You can use whatever tag you want.
No,
but the fact is,
you can use homegrown player, but that doesn't mean anything.
Academy
player means I'm in the academy and I'm playing in the first team like Nqueri. Yeah, that's an academy player. Yeah,
you know what it means, Tony. You know what it means. It means we are Arsenal. We don't buy stars. We create them. Yeah, and while we are buying stars, let's not pull the wool over our eyes. We know we're all buying stars now. We still, as Arsene Wenger said a couple of weeks back, we've still got that the crux, the values, that we've had that empower the club. And this is why I'm such a strong advocate for young players. Ebony's the same when it comes to our homegrown players. We support them. There's a section of our fan base that ain't interested in it. That they don't want. If you said to them, "Do you want to be a Chelsea or do you want to buy?" They would gladly say, "Yeah, drop every single player in the youth team and let's just buy every single talent that we can get our hands on." Unfortunately, that's not the way how Arsenal do things. Alfie says Saka was in the same position and he's scoring World Cup goals for fun. Yeah, I'm a big advocate of that, and Bertram's going to have to come and answer that because my man giving him a lot of stick. But in Bertram's fairness, Bertram has set the bar for Saka, and for me, Saka's achieving that. Year on year, he's scoring more goals, getting more involved, and you look at the England. I mean, England can't do without him. I know Rashford, they're talking about him, but
I mean, look. The same can be said for Odegaard. We were having a go at Odegaard, needing to play better and deliver more for us. And then he pops up in the last game and he scores 2 goals. And all of a sudden, he's the best thing since sliced bread. Football is cyclical. One game you're going to be great, the next game you're not going to be. Then you're going to be half great, then you can be great, then you're going to have a not so great game. Every player is going through that cycle. Obviously, Gabriel Jesus hasn't scored in 10 games. He's supposed to be dropped.
Shocking. Should have been dropped.
He's supposed to be dropped. So forget the injury. You haven't scored in 10 games. You're supposed to be dropped.
I thought he was fortunate to go to the World Cup on that form.
Yeah, when you consider,
right. Absolutely right.
Fortunate.
Very fortunate.
So, guys, look, it's so much going on here at the moment that we've got to get through. So let's start by talking about what we're going to do now, because everything gone now. Now we're in a situation where we have to find solutions. So, here to talk about the solutions. Actually, Balogun was the last on my list, but because Vincey brought his name up, I have to put him first on the list. I'm going to tell you now, my thoughts on Balogun is a no. And the reason why is because, me personally, I don't want to disrupt his development. This is very important for him to go out to France and put a full season together with his head away from Arsenal so he can focus on himself. It's never, ever, ever been a case where Balogun's been better than Eddie. Never, not even once. Yeah. But I do understand what Tony said if Eddie gets injured next week. then you're really going to be up it, because the guy who's in third is actually in Qatar playing for Brazil. So, you know, I don't even know. I mean, what would they do? What would they do? I think that they would. I mean, I know Marquinhos played at the. I mean, we're going into silly land at the moment now. Going into silly land. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they would do. Honestly, I mean, Pepe is still on loan. Wow, did I just say that? Yeah, I think I did. But you look, I wouldn't take him back. Tony, what's your thoughts on Balogun?
No, I like the kid. He's scoring goals. I have got no issue with bringing him back. Just the same way I felt last season when I saw Saliba doing what Saliba was doing. I had no problem bringing that kid back and saying he's ready. Balogun, we know what he can do. We've seen it. And now he's getting regular football with his team in France. And they're not a great team. It's not like he's gone to Marseille, where he could have been surrounded with gems. Yeah, he's playing in a lowly Reims team that really has no other players bar him. And he's still scoring goals. He still scored more than Messi this season. So I'm like, you know what? If he's our player and he's an option, I'd bring him back. But I'd also still buy another striker.
So,
I mean, I know it sounds ludicrous to think of bringing back a striker and buying a striker. So that when Gabriel Jesus comes back, you then end up with 4 strikers.
Yeah, and that's why I would.
How many strikers have Liverpool got?
They've got Firmino and they've got Nunes. They got rid of Origi.
They got Diaz.
They've got Minamino.
No, they don't have Minamino.
They're not strikers. They're not strikers, are they?
Diaz is a striker. Salah is a striker.
No, come on, they're not strikers.
Jota is a striker.
Yeah.
Again, he's a wide player.
Oh,
if you're talking about attacking forward, yeah, he's an attacking forward, yeah.
Right. So how many is that?
Right.
5.
So yeah, but
how many do we have?
Yeah, but you've just defined an attacking forward player.
Yeah, but Tony,
how many do we have?
But Tony, this is the problem that I said that the Arsenal and Arteta have gone. This is a decision at the start of the season. They're happy to go with the minimal strikers, yeah, at the club. So I personally can't see us going out and buying a striker, even though we needed somebody to push us on, because I just think where they see the club going, we're ahead of the curve. So that we can finish top 4 without going out and buying another striker. And that's the way I see Arsenal going forward, just for your point, because we go out and get a quality striker, then we're going to have another striker, and it messes up in their mind where they want to go. Now, the challenge then for Arteta would be are you going to change the formation to accommodate the players that you have? Because obviously we're talking about Sakas at the World Cup. We've got Reece Nelson training right now. Look how many players are going to be shattered by the time they come back from the World Cup. What's he going to do? So this is the challenge that, we've been talking about Arteta. What are you going to do with your tactics to allow the guys to play? Because sometimes we can't expect like your Nketiah, your fringe players to come in and do exactly the same as that first 11, because they may not be on that level. You may have to tweak things and have some of your midfield guys having a lot more responsibility to fill in and allow those guys just to do what they're best at.
So G says Reece Nelson. Yes, sorry, my bad. I forgot about that. He did play up top as well with the 18s. God, what a talent he was at that level. I can't wait to see him play more this season. G says he's talking to Richard, asking for another centre forward to cover Jesus. Feels like wish list stuff. And if that's what you want, I think you're going to be left disappointed. Yeah, I mean, look, he's a top striker. You just don't pull them out of the hat. We just don't. You just don't, guys. Even City don't have that depth. Jesus, Nketiah, Martinelli, another wing forward to cover Martinelli makes more sense, and that's the reason why I said Gakpo. Yeah, and the man burned us up when we played PSV. He burned us up. He roasted us. He burned us up, and he scored every game in the World Cup, in the league stages. Look, I'm a big Gakpo fan. I'm not even trying to hide that from you guys. It's just that for me, is he worth the 60 million? I think if you get him for 50 million, I think you might be able to get away with it. I think if they put in a 50 million bid, they'll buy it.
Okay, so Apollo, if you buy Gakpo to play on that left side, yeah, what does that do to Smith Rowe after the season he had last year, and he's coming back?
Well, again, I said the beauty in what Arteta does is that the players can interlink and they're versatile. So you're talking about Smith Rowe, a player who can play at the number 10 and number 8 and on the right. So it's all relative, isn't it? If you're my issue is if I'm buying you and you can only play in one position, then we got a problem when Jesus comes back. Because what am I going to do with you? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see that. But the problem we believe in our youngsters and we've given them the opportunity. We've been calling for Reece Nelson to get the opportunity. The problem we have right now is if he goes out and buys a player in the like of Gakpo, okay, that causes problems with those same youngsters they're sitting on the bench.
Well, yes, you're right that will happen. However, let's move back to Tony Cox. The plan was always to buy an attacking midfielder player. Mudryk, we know they were after Mudryk before Jesus got injured. So the plan was always there to bring somebody in. And they have been very, very honest and straightforward about what their plan was. They don't want to bring in squad players. They want to bring in players who can come in and make an impact. And, Edu's made that very clear over the summer. Because as fans, we're saying we ain't got no depth, man. We need squad players. In the front office, they're saying, no, we need ballers who are going to come in. Just like I talked about Man City. We need a Mahrez. Remember when they bought Mahrez, when they had all them guys there, when they bought Grealish, they already had a team. All you're doing is you're just putting more gravy on your chicken. That's all you're doing because you've already got something built. So the plan, Vincey, was always to go and get an attacking midfielder. And I think now, and I'm only guessing this. I've had a couple of. I talked to Colin today. I talked to Neil. I've talked to a couple of agents, and they don't really know. However, what they do know is the plan was that they were always going to look to strengthen anyway. Arteta and Edu had a meeting with Josh Kroenke and Stan the other day, just to try and find out what the funds were going to be in January. But the plan was for them to always go in and strengthen the squad because you are 5 points clear of Man City. It's there for you. It's there, right there. All you got to do is reach out and grab it. Yeah? We don't know, because it's so competitive now, we don't know when Arsenal are ever going to be in this situation again. Now we're in the situation we can win the league. Owners, please, we can bring you a championship. All we're asking for you is to do A, B, and C. And I think
let me give you a little analogy. Remember what the Rams did last year, bro? That's Stan Kroenke's team.
Yeah,
what did they do?
Yeah.
What did they do?
Yeah, they got Stafford.
Hang on a second. We could win this. We could actually win this. We just need to grab those opportunities that are there. And guess what they did? They went and won the damn thing.
Yeah, got Odell. Yeah. Different game.
Well said.
Von Miller. Different kettle.
Von Miller and Odell Beckham just made such a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, well said. So it's a no from me for Balogun, a yes from Tony. Vincey?
Yeah, I'd Balogun, man. Balogun. Simple. Bring it back, man. Balogun.
Right. Cody Gakpo would be my first option. The guys, as I said, he's one of the stars of the World Cup. He ran rings around our defense when we were playing him. He had 2 goals, which was actually offside. So you have to give credit to Ben White on the first one and Saliba on the second one. for holding the line. But he was scaring the living daylights out of them. Just the fact that he was doing that was causing us all kinds of problems. It's inevitable that this guy is going to play in the Premier League. It's going to happen, guys. 60 million clause in his contract. His deal's up till 2026. He'll be playing in the Premier League next season. If we don't buy him, someone else is gonna. I'm hearing United want him. Jesus United want everybody. But he's going to be playing.
Don't rule out Real Madrid.
Yeah, I mean, look, he is not going to be a PSV player come next season. Tony, what's your thoughts on Gakpo?
Love the kid. Think he's fantastic. I think the way he's illuminated the Netherlands team in the World Cup has put everybody on red alert, to the point now that I do believe clubs like Real Madrid will be saying, well, hang on a second, we didn't get Mbappe last year. We might look at this kid and think, can he work with Vinny on the left, Gakpo on the right, and Benzema or other down the middle?
Because, Vincey, all you need is the foundation. Once you've got the foundation, Vincey, you can coach him. Yeah, you can start to build him up. If you've got a player with pace, intelligence, hold-up play, strong in the air, can play across the whole front line, and he's 23 years old. That's it. That is it. That's the fundamentals. That is what you need as your starting blocks. And then you just take the player and you develop him. What's your thoughts on Gakpo?
I don't think I know enough about him. I think he's played well in the World Cup. To be honest, I'm not gonna. I don't know enough about him. My only concern when I look and I hear all the talk about Gakpo in the summer, and I know yourself and Tony and Nyomis were spoken about him for quite a while, is if Arsenal really believed in getting this player or having this player as somebody who could make a difference in the squad, why didn't we get him in the summer with Jesus?
Well, there's one. I might be able to answer that. They were given a certain budget because, look, there's no secret that Arsenal are way over budget, man. Arsenal are in the red. But they don't worry about it because in 18 months' time, when the new deals are done, it's just going to come back to us. That's when the overflow from the ad, because you guys are aware, Emirates Stadium rights, most of the illicit stuff is going to reset. The Rwanda deal is over, so that's going to be. Hopefully they'll go and get something else because I've never been a fan of that. And then the Adidas deal was supposed to be over, but Adidas already signed an extension. So that extension means that they already did. Yeah, I think this happened about 4 months ago. I haven't talked about it, but they've already signed an extension. So we are going to have Adidas beyond 2024. But then the accelerator, remember, we're getting 60 million a year from them. The 90 million a year accelerator goes on there. So so there's going to be more money in the kitty from all accounts. And that's how I believe that they're dealing with the debt. So they've looked at it and thought, if we spend now, we can get a good team, and then we won't have to spend too much to keep it going forward because we'll have the money that will come back to us, but then we'll have a good team now, rather than let's not spend until we get some money in the next 2 years, and then we can start. But
how does that work in January? Because summer. My point is I'll
answer that. I'll answer that. They had surplus cash ready there to buy Rafinha, so they had that cash within their budget to do the deal. They just didn't do the deal, and that money was never spent. Now remember, that is overflow money, so no one. It's not surplus reserves. It's just surplus.
So that money for Rafinha was there that hasn't been spent.
Correct.
But you're saying now that they're going to potentially pull the trigger on the same player that's gone to the World Cup and lit it up. We ain't getting him at that same price.
Well, as I said, the release clause is 60, regardless of what. Look, nobody. I talked to Colin yesterday, and he said fans were talking about Erling Haaland being 90 million, 120 million. The agents always knew he was 51 million. They always knew it. It's just that it wasn't made public. They've known Cody Gakpo's release clause has been 60 million for a whole season since last summer. So he ain't going to cost no foolish money. He ain't going to cost no stupidness. I think that the difference was then when they were talking about Nakunka, and then they were talking about Alex Isak, and all these guys now have been set at 100 million. Look at the guy we're after, the attacking midfielder, Mudryk. He ain't got no release clause. They can ask what they want. We're hearing 80 million, 90 million, 100 million. We're on all this foolishness. And that's the problem, I think, when we get to that. And again, my reasons for Gakpo is that he is young, he's intelligent, he scores goals, he plays all across the line, and he's affordable. I mean, for me, that's the Rafinha deal right there. And yeah, some fans would like it. I can see our brother from another manor, Bertram, maybe not liking it. But look, man, Gakpo's the truth, man. And he's going to light up, whether it's for us, whether it's for Man United, whether he goes to Real Madrid. Yeah. Is Gakpo the answer? Well, you know, nobody knows who's the answer. It's an open-ended question, Bertram. There's a lot of names which we're going through now. You know, I personally think Nketiah is gonna light it up, just like he did last season. But Tony's right.
Can I throw another name in the?
Being too thin.
Can I throw another name in the hat?
Well, we've been
linked with this week.
Yeah, we've got 3 more names in the hat, so you can go through yours now. If it's one of them, then we can talk about them now.
It's not one of the ones that you were add on your list, but he has been talked about on a couple of platforms that I follow, and that is Leroy Sané.
So from what I was aware, this is just my knowledge, is that they had 2 conversations with him, but he said that he wasn't leaving, so they went elsewhere. But I like him as a player, but I don't think he's available. It's the same thing we had with, what's the guy? Serge Gnabry. All this talk about, bring him in, he was always going to stay there and get paid.
Don't forget, there's the Arteta thing, yeah? Sané has a relationship with Arteta.
Mm. Yeah, I like him as a player. If he was available, I'd take him. I've got no problem with him whatsoever. What about you, Vincey?
I'm not sure how good he's recovered from his last injury that he's had. I think Man City's had the best of Sané. I think he's a great player. Again, it just sounds to me as afterthought thinking from the club if you're going to bring those type of players in, and it frustrates me. We're in the middle of the season, regardless of we're 5 points ahead of the seat at the top, but we're in the middle of the season and we kind of scratching how we're going to try and make our team better because we didn't make it better in the summer, and it kind of frustrates me. But Sané's a good player. I mean, if Sané does come in, you're going to go back to the same thing where actually you got Nketiah and Martinelli up front. So it's not so much a striker we're looking to get. We're looking to have somebody who's going to attacking midfielder who can play on either one of the flanks. So you can rotate your Saka or that player coming in, knowing that you've got Smith Rowe as well as backup, and you've also got Nelson. So in essence, those are the 2 positions that you've got rotation on either side, and you've got Martinelli and Nketiah up front. I can't see us going and buying a striker if that's the mindset that you're looking for in that type of Gakpo player. But yeah, I just think we're just playing catch up right now in the middle of the season.
Yeah, and then look, guys, this isn't something which we planned for, and we've got to make the best out of a bad situation. And I'm just happy that we're not the ones making decisions here. G says, I play poker. I've seen dope hits, massive long shots against me when I'm trapped. I don't play poker, so I have no idea what you're saying, bro.
Keep it rolling. Keep it rolling.
It's called hitting a flush or open end straight. I don't know what that is. If you don't have the cojones to gamble at your best shot at a title in 20 years, you just aren't cut out for big business or elite sports. I do agree about that. Yeah, I do agree. Yeah. Even though,
play the cards you're dealt with, and believe what you got. And That's what I'm saying. We're in the middle of the season.
Yeah, it's a never Leicester opportunity.
You know.
Yeah.
We should have foreseen this. So let's see if they're gonna go out and do what we want as fans. They're gonna come in bringing a bad boy player who's gonna come
Bad
in. Don
boy player.
That's what us fans want. A
Yeah.
Don to come in, hit the ground running, mash it up. Let's have a parade. Let's have a parade.
So guys, Tammy Abraham is next up on the list currently at Roma, is expected to return to the Premier League at some point. And look, it was either I would put him in there or Zaha. And I just don't think that they would go for a 30-year-old player in Zaha. Who do you want Zaha playing at the 9? Look, I just didn't put it in because I just didn't think it was going to happen. So I've put in Tammy Abrahams. Very attractive. Yeah. I mean, look, he just missed out on the England team World Cup. For me, he should have gone. He should have gone to the World Cup. There's a whole heap of dibby players they're taking in that 25. He's 23. Okay. Yeah. So he's about the right age, isn't it?
And he's an Arsenal fan.
Yes, he is. Yeah. And look, he was stunning last season. This season, he's a little bit of a slow start to the campaign. But he was starting to come on strong just before the break. Tony, twist or stick?
Such a difficult one. I'm inclined to say twist. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, look.
I like.
He's a really good player, man.
Yeah, I like his length, which is, something we missed. The ability to head the ball, the ability to get up in the air and chest the ball down to players, to knock off. Look how much Kylian Mbappe rates Giroud.
Yeah.
And since Giroud, we ain't had another one.
Yeah, I agree. And that's a plan B, Tony. Having someone 6'3" and can hold the line. Do you know what Arsene Wenger said 2 weeks ago on Ben Sports when they were talking about him? Because they were talking about who didn't make the England team. And Arsene Wenger said, he's a big fan of Tammy Abrahams. He he reminds him of everything that Adebayo could do. In the air, 2-footed, young player. He sees, listen to your boy here. Your boy is just gig. Your boy is balling out here, man. He says, a hail to the no. He says, we want sustained success, not one-off success. And then he's not good enough. He also says, do not deviate from the process. We are buying long-term. And that's why I would buy Cody Gakpo. Because you know what? Tammy Abrahams is going to cost you Gakpo money. But guess what? You'll be able to do more with Gakpo because he's more versatile. And you'll just be able to do so many more things with him when Jesus comes back. That's the key, guys. Yeah, that's what we have to do. That's what we have to accept. Because you paying 60 million on a striker and you're playing him for what, 10 games? It will be that Jesus will miss. Then you're going to end up in a situation with a guy who's going to be sitting there and he's a one-trick pony. He can't play on the wide, can't play as an 8, can't play as an 11, can't play as a 7. So it's going to be one of those things. I don't think you will run into that problem if you buy Gakpo. If you buy Gakpo, you'll be able to play him anytime you want. You'll be playing alongside Jesus. You can play him left or right. He'll actually be a backup for Saka. And then you can take your time and maybe put Marquinhos on loan, which is something that they were and ahhing about last summer. But it just puts you with a team with pure boilers. Pure boilers. Could you imagine having Martinelli and Smith Rowe on the left and then Saka and Gakpo on the right? Are you mad? Are you mad? Now we started to talk about lifting the team up and then Fabio Vieira as the backup number 10. Now we start to talk about all that stuff. Big up Jajesh Patel. Yeah. It says, but also don't think we could get him.
That's who the Facebook user is. That's my good ex-work colleague from Burberry. Yeah, big up to you, my guy. Hope you're well.
Nice. Someone says Gakpo would be, yeah, exactly my point. He'd be better long term, and you can still play him when Jesus gets back. The problem with 80% of the people on my list is, guess what? They ain't getting on the field when Jesus is on there. Bertrand then says he is doing well, but wasn't impressive when we played him he was running all over us in the Europa League. What are you talking about, bro? Gakpo was rinsing us in the Europa League. I think he was their best player. And all of our eyes was on him. So, guys, Vincey, Tammy Abrahams, that's a yes from you?
At one stage, yes. I think our style of football changes if he comes to us right now. I think it may slow it down. But he's a target man. He's not
a plan B. He's a plan B.
He's a plan B. He's going to hold on to the ball. He's not going to take shots like Gakpo does and score some of those wonder shots that sometimes frustrates Arteta because Arteta wants to keep hold of the ball. But, at one stage, I would have taken Tammy. He's a good option, but
what are you looking for?
He probably Gakpo wins it. As I said, there was a time when Tammy I would bring him in, but he's an Arsenal fan, so you can't really go on social media and say, Arsenal fans can't play with their Arsenal. You know what I mean?
Right. Guys, Goncalo Ramos. This is dubbed the new Ronaldo. Yeah, the Benfica striker had a crazy hat trick in Portugal's 6-1 drubbing of Switzerland. He stepped into the void created by David Nunes at Benfica as well when Nunes went to Liverpool. He's 21 years old, guys. He has bag loads of talent. Someone like him, you can see probably going, as Tony talked about, Real Madrid, Barcelona. This guy looks like he's the real deal. I don't know what his market value is, so I'm not going to sort of stand here and lie to you guys. Just saying, Tammy ain't that guy. Bertram saying you have to be an athlete to play in our team, given the required pressing needed up top. That's why Gakpo is up there for me, Bertram. He says you also need to also be able to beat a man such as Tammy. He's talking about Tammy as well. But yeah, I mean, Tony, what's your thoughts on Ramos? And I do understand that you're saying you haven't watched a lot of the World Cup, but obviously this guy's replaced Nunes at Benfica, and he's lighting it up there as well.
No, I can't comment, my friend. I just can't comment. I don't have any idea about this player. I don't watch Portuguese football. I have not seen him in any European competition. So I've not even watched a single minute of a Portugal game. So sorry, can't say anything.
Vincey, the problem with me with this guy is look, if you're 21, I mean, look at Mbappe when he was 21. So, and then look at Martinelli, 21. So I don't think it's the age. I just think it's the experience. Like I can talk to you about Saka and Martinelli, can't I? But then how many games have those guys played at the elite level? This guy's only just taken over from Darwin Nunes. And for me, he hasn't played enough games. A little bit of a Ben White. Remember, when we bought Ben White for 50 million, he'd only had 32 competitive games at the top level. Mm-hmm. So it was always sort of a gamble, although, many can say Ben White has proven himself. But it is a gamble. And I just don't think when you lose someone like Jesus, you go out and gamble. You already said it 5 minutes ago, Vincey. Brock the tin, rip off the head, and get the bus out. Send the bus with the topless. Get the topless bus out, and then drive it down Islington and say, "Yeah, this is our new player." I don't think this guy fits your bill.
Well, the thing is, we know Arsenal are not going to go and do that type of thing. That's the frustration. Fans, we want it, but this guy's 21. He's been through the Benfica youth system and
Bush League.
You could call it Bush League, but it's Benfica, and the guy's got himself to a World Cup and he's banging in goals. So, I don't talk about this Bush League stuff because man has to come from somewhere. But as long as you can control the ball,
we were talking about Balogun. Balogun's playing in the Bush League. We were talking about him.
You know what I mean? So it's like I just want to see whether the guy's got the stamina, he's got the skill, he's got the vision, what he can do with the ball. He's an interesting option because my eye test, he knows where the goal is. The brother knows where the goal is. Now, 24 million. That's his market value right now. 24 million. Benfica will not allow this guy to go cheap.
Yeah,
they
because
will not.
We bought a few players from them, haven't we?
Yeah.
We have a good relationship.
So it's like, if we can get a player of his ability and he can continue his progression, then we've got somebody who can link up with his countryman Vieira and do some stuff. But it is a stretch, but
I just he's for me, he just doesn't have the experience. And the one name I left off this list is Jonathan David, somebody who we were linked with before. Someone like that.
I've just seen his first goal. What a goal!
Who's that? Yeah. No, he's a bad boy. They're talking him up as the new Ronaldo. G says City are so strong everywhere. They won the league without a striker last season. I had Jesus. Who are you talking about? We aren't at their level to be able to do that. Nobody is. Now they have the best striker available and an incredibly talented understudy. We have Jesus, who brings a lot to overall play, but has always been a purple patch player with goals. And Eddie has everything to prove. Cam says, obviously terrible news that Jesus is out. I'm genuinely excited to see Eddie. Yeah, me too as well. Tony's just having a look at the goals there. There's another player who's actually more experienced than Ramos, and he plays for Spain, and we have had a look at him. He's 23 years old, and look, Spain are the youngest team in the World Cup right now, guys. I'm surprised that they lost to Morocco, but because of their age, it was probably expected.
The man didn't want to shoot, man.
Yeah.
Want to shoot, man.
No, well, because he hit the post 10 seconds before the end of the game, and he hit the post on the first penalty. This guy's nuts, man. Yeah. But listen, he's made a big impression since joining Club Brugge. He scored 9 goals in 22 league appearances this season. He's played a pivotal role for them in the Champions League as well. So he has Champions League experience, young Spaniard. Personally, I'm not sure if their eyes are on him or not. I don't think we've even been linked with him. But and again, is he a better option than Cody Gakpo? No. No, he just isn't. So for me, I'm saying a no on this one. Tony?
Again, I never play it. I have no idea who that guy is. I have no idea who that guy is.
And what about you, Vincey?
I mean, listen, I want a striker who knows where the goal is, who's going to turn and drop his foot and release. That's what I want. We've got too many players who step over and do all this, and Tony's doing the reactions that I'm talking about. I
just saw the Rafael Leao goal. Oh my God!
Sick in it. Sick.
Yeah, mad goal.
I just I just want a striker in the mold of Ian Wright and Thierry Henry. Pull your foot back and just drop the shot. That's what
brother. You're not asking for much, but I hear you, man.
No, I'm serious, because we've got enough players who can dribble and do this and do a step up. Listen, draw your foot, man. You know where the goal is. Draw your foot. And Ramos is that type of man. Gakpo is that type of man. That's what we need, because we need a striker that's going to cause fear in the defense. Yes, we've got Jesus, but fear. That's what I want.
Latrex says you can call him the postman. Cam says Nketiah's willingness to stretch West Ham's defense gave Arsenal a different dimension. It did, for those numbers that I came up. We were used to seeing Lacazette running around, doing his thing, not shooting on goal, and then Eddie comes in, and all of a sudden it's just full steam ahead. And that's why I had to put them stats out for you to show you the dribbles, the tenacity he had, the shots that he had, and most importantly, the touches. It's the touches. 51, more than any Premier League striker in that season. That just shows you what we've got in Eddie is no joke. Guys, there's a reason we gave him a contract. We just, hey, Eddie, come, Eddie, my friend, come over here and sign 100 grand a week. We didn't just come in and do that off the back of nothing. It's what he showed you. Yeah? It's what he showed you. And some of you fans, you know what? I respect your opinions with it, but I ain't really listening because it's foolishness. You can't come and tell me the man went and done that last season and you just let it all go and just poured water over it and got rid of it. No, guys, it happened. Yeah? We were still in the top 4 race last season when we lost all of our players because of this guy's goals. So
Paulo, could I just ask you, could you envisage Arteta still playing Eddie on the left and having either one of Ramos or Gakpo playing up front? Because I think Ramos would be a good option because of his running ability to play the lead role.
Yeah, I think he could, but there's one thing that I've seen from Arteta that I don't like, and that is when Martinelli first came on the scene, Emery was playing him as a number 9, and he was hella fun. A lot of people forget he scored 10 goals in his first season, which, by the way, was exactly the amount of goals that Erling Haaland scored. I went on record and said Martinelli and Haaland are going to be the future of strikers in Europe. What happened the next day? The next season, Haaland went on to score 37 goals. Martinelli was injured for most of the season. And since then, Arteta has played him as a left winger. He's rarely ever played as a number 9, but he can play as a number 9. And I remember the one game when Aubameyang got a red card and Martinelli came in to replace him for 3 games. He scored 2 goals. Incredible goal at Chelsea where he ran on the counter the whole field, yeah, and put the ball in the net at Stamford Bridge. And it's just almost like Arteta has no plans for him to play there. So that's a very difficult one. I need to see some commitment to play Martinelli at the point because I don't think Arteta wants to do it. He's not shown me anything.
I think Arteta will lose. Arsenal will lose out on his running and his tracking back. And I think that's where Arteta looks and thinks, you know what, okay, I've got a solid back. You know, I've got guys on the wing who are willing to track back. That's his mindset. For me, Martinelli up front, train him, get him in that position. But if you're going to go out and get somebody, I do like this Ramos guy with his running ability. Gakpo, listen, there's someone's put on the Facebook user, he's got the Henry-esque ability. You know, he can play that role. But I think those 2 options as a striker is probably what we probably going to go for. But I can still see him using Eddie, if need be, on the maybe not as a main striker all the time. You will have him playing on that left.
Because I think Edu's the man that's got to go out and fix this problem. Yeah, he's the technical director who's just been promoted to a new directorial role, so he's on an equal footing now to Vinay. Right? They're still under Josh, but basically he can't get paid more money and he's on equal footing. So for me, I can see a scenario because we got to talk about now, guys, what the solution is. I see a scenario where I think they're going to still go for Mudryk. I think they're going to still get an attacking midfield player, and then they have the option for Martinelli to come in and back up Eddie. They're going to go with Eddie. Eddie's their guy, yeah? And I have no problem with that whatsoever because Eddie, you know, I know Jesus' goals have dried up, but it's not for a lack of trying. If you're actually watching the games, which you guys are, and you know he's just been unfortunate. And guys, strikers do go through purple patches. It happens. It's common. Eddie, due to the way how Eddie plays, Eddie's never really had a purple patch because, you know, he's got off the top of my head now, he's got 25 goals in 36 starts. That's insane. That's insane. For a 22-year-old who's playing at Arsenal as a homegrown player, that is insane. And it baffles why some fans are still saying he's not the answer. He's not the answer. He's not the answer. He's not. The guy scores goals. You look at his goals per minute and line them up against any. We did that last season. We looked at his goals per minute. You can line them up against the best strikers in the league because he's a fox in a box. And because how many times have you seen the ball get played along through the middle and nobody's there? That used to drive us mad when they used to do that. Lacazette standing outside the box, ball goes through the 6-yard line. You're thinking, what are you doing? As soon as Eddie comes in, bang, goals.
Can I just say, Apollo, I think you need to put a poll out to see how many Arsenal fans have Eddie on the back of their shirt. And that will tell you where the confidence, where Arsenal fans are with Eddie. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm talking about when fans have players' names on the back of their shirt. But I think the reality of Arsenal fans in regards to where they see Eddie in relying on Eddie moving forward, and I'm not saying he can't do it, but he's not likely. Arsenal fans probably won't have his name on the back of their shirt.
So Vincey, I've lived through 10 years of FIFA World Cup, and what I can tell you is this: no matter what Eddie does for Arsenal club, it's never going to be enough for some fans. I know. I already know this. And that's the reason why I don't battle it. I respect it. I'm like, bro, that's your view. I get it. But I don't see it because every possible logical explanation goes unheard. I still hear somebody was putting up a poll on the forum, 101 forum. It's on there. And it says, which player, it's got a list of players there who were injured. And it says, which player do you think, if they wasn't injured, didn't fulfill their destiny, become the player? And I said, well, you can take Walcott off the list because he's a Centurion. He's the 14th highest goal scorer in history at Arsenal Football Club. So you can take him off because, as far as I'm aware, he was the highest scoring winger for a decade in his position. There wasn't anybody who could match his goals. Not even Ryan Giggs. In that space of time. So when I talk about, and I've been through this with Eddie, I've been through this with Walcott, I'm going through this now with Reece Nelson. I'm going through the same thing. I might be going with Balogun, I don't know, because we ain't crossed that road yet. But my passion is always going to be with the Arsenal Academy players. Always going to be with the homegrown youth players. I'm always going to be in their corner. Yeah, I'm going to be their wingman. Always in their corner. And unfortunately, we just have a section of fans who just are never going to even give them those accolades, ever, no matter what they do.
I think where it comes to some of these players is because I don't personally think they've been utilised to their strengths in the formation that the manager asks them to play. And it's a frustration because it's not that they don't have ability. I'm one of the biggest advocates for the youth. Play the youth, but play the youths in a way that they can express themselves without burnout. So I'm going to go back to this. You put up a stat earlier on about the touches that Jesus has and so forth. I do not want my striker Eddie doing all that nonsense in the midfield when midfield man could be doing that. I want Eddie to be up top in a position that when he gets the chance and his movement is good, he's at the end to finish. If we don't have that situation going on when he's on the pitch, then it's an issue to do with how he's been utilised on the pitch. And that's the problem, because I believe we should at this stage be seeing more from Eddie, but he hasn't been utilised right. And that's where we are right now. That's because we're having to rely on him, but he's going to be put into a system where actually, you know what, he's running around like Jesus. I don't want that. Yeah,
and there's because that's what Jesus is doing for Arteta, and that's what Eddie did for him as well. So one can say that that's by design. But the only thing, the only thing where I would side with you on that is Zinchenko is inverted. He's the one that's coming in and taking up that role in the midfield as the extra man. So there's no need in your defense, Vincey. There's no need for you to drop back in the midfield and do that because your inverted left back is coming in and facilitating that role. Does that make sense? So I agree with you on that respect. You shouldn't be coming back to the midfield to help when they already have help. And then it makes us too bunched up. So I do understand that. Bertram said, can't get a purple patch on the bench. 100%, my brother. Totally agree. Cam says, Eddie did pretty much everything a striker should be doing. Running in behind, coming short to hold the ball up, hustling, pressing, generally making a nuisance of himself. That's Eddie Nketiah. That's his game. And my fear is, I've always looked at him as a player, just like I did with Andy Cole. I didn't watch Dwight York too much. I don't know what Dwight York was like when he was a young player, but I do know what Andy Cole was like. And he turned out to be a fantastic player doing exactly what it says on the tin. And that's why I've always looked at Nketiah and thinking, yeah, you know, this guy has got the chops. He's got the, you don't teach that. You don't coach that. That's how you are innately as a player. That's your skill set. That's what you bring to the table as a standard set. You don't, you know, some managers have to ask players to give them a little bit more. You don't ask Eddie to give you a little bit more. You just take the chains off Eddie and say, go on, Rockweiler, let loose, go and terrorize the defense. That's all you do. And in terms of what they've done with Martinelli, they've refined that. And Arteta talks about it on All or Nothing. You lot have all seen it, where he says this guy was a Tasmanian devil. He was just whizzing around the pitch with his like a headless chicken. And now they've got Martinelli playing properly. Now they got him down the line, supporting the left back. They got him down the channels. They got him defending. They got him doing all these different things. And Arteta is to thank for that. So the tactical situation, I see where you're going with Vincey. That's going to be Arteta's problem: is how do I maintain that shape and the tactics and the setup with Jesus out, because he's been so pivotal to what we've been doing as a team, even when he's not scoring. How do I keep that momentum going? That's going to be the biggest trick. That's going to be where Arteta's going to earn his medal. And that's also going to be the reason that's going to maintain our title run. Because if we don't get that right, the title's over. And I'm not being doom or gloom or anything. I'm just stating facts. That if you don't get the balance right, if the balance goes, then it's going to create all sorts of problems for us.
I think you made a good point there with Andy Cole and Dwight York. Believe it or not, Arsenal had two players very similar in that like, where you've got Balogun and you've got Nketiah. Now, if those two, imagine a scenario where the two of them are on the pitch at the same time and they've got experience and they're performing, you could see similar play to that likes, and obviously you've got Saka on one side and you've got Martinelli on the other. And I think that's the future, where you've got, if we can keep hold of those two players and they develop and mature, you're going to see probably the best of their game, pretty much scoring goals like Andy Cole and Dwight York. Because those two guys, they know where the goals are. Eddie's not afraid to do the flicks. He's not afraid to do the headers. Balogun's not afraid to turn a man and take a shot. You know, these guys, once they refine their game and they play together, you know, having a Martinelli on one side and Saka, it's going to be frightening. So we've got players. Again, we just got to, we are ahead of the curve right now. We, as fans, we've got to understand 5 points at the top of the season ahead. We are ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm just going back to what we initially started as. A big shout out to all of you who are watching. There's a lot of people. There's 50 people watching on Twitter right now. There's 15 people watching on YouTube, and there's 17 people watching on Facebook. So big shout out. Hello, everybody. How you doing? Subscribe to the channel. Blah blah blah. You know how it works. But I think for me, we opened up this podcast by saying this. We said that one man don't make a team. one man doesn't win a Premier League title. 11 players do that. Or, in Man City's terms, a squad of 25 players will do that. So for us, we just have to make sure that we don't lose, as I talked about a couple of minutes ago, the team balance, because we should be setting our system up in a way that whoever comes in just flows within the system and nothing changes. Very few teams are good at that, but I think Arteta's been so hard on this is how we play, this is our mentality, this is what we do to dominate the team, and we don't deviate from that. And he's been really good at that. And I think this is where he's going to see how well that works when you start taking pieces out of the puzzle. G says, what we need to realize is that injuries will occur throughout a season. Losing one player should not derail your season entirely. Losing multiple players does, just like what happened at the back end of last year. Tierney, Tomiyasu, Partey, a whole list of players were injured. Not to mention Aubameyang was gone at Christmas. The drop-off from Jesus to Nketiah is nowhere near as big as Partey to El Nene, Xhaka to Lokonga, and Tierney to Zinchenko. I don't know about the Tierney to Zinchenko business, but I do agree with you on the other ones there. Jijesh says, can be killers, but only if they refine their game, as you said. Cam says, I think people underestimate the team cohesion and the system that is in place currently. This team has dealt with Tierney at left back. And they lost Thomas Partey for a couple of games and they were able to facilitate that as well. Look, and that's what I'm saying, guys. I'm saying it shouldn't be down to one player. It should be the system. Yeah? This is what happens in American football when your running back goes out of the game, or your left tackle, your right tackle, your center, your wide receiver goes out. Yeah? You should have a system in place that says, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and this is how it's going to be done. And every person should be on that same line. Everyone should be singing from the same hymn sheet. And if that's the case, then we shouldn't see a massive drop-off. Yeah? So, guys, that's pretty much where we are at the moment. Look, I would really like to see us come in and complete the plan. If the plan was to get Mudryk in the new year or an attacking midfielder, then go ahead and deal with your plan. But just make sure, because you know what Tony said. I don't know whether Tony put Obia on the podcast, and I hope Eddie Nketiah doesn't get injured in the next week. But it's a very real thing. It's a very real thing. If you don't plan to get through the season, and that's the conversation. Arteta and Edu didn't fly over to America to meet with Stan and Josh for any small reason. They went over there to say, guys, we can win this Premier League. We can do this if you support me. Just like you did last summer and the summer before that. Yeah, with all the money you've given me, thank you very much, Mr. Kroenke. But if you do this for me, I can give you a Premier League title. That's what the conversation would have been. So I really can't wait to see what happens in January and how they figure it out. I do expect Tielemans to be an Arsenal player, though. They've got to do something in that midfield, and they got to put more bums on
two players are going to come in. You think two players are coming in?
Yeah, but Tielemans ain't going to cost you much money, is he? I mean, unless he's either going to be stubborn like a cow, and just let him go for free next summer, or they're going to have a conversation with Edu and then they're going to bite, because you know Leicester look like they've been fighting relegation for most of the season, and they've actually pulled themselves out of it. But I think that they feel that they can, and he's been in the last 6, 7, 8 games. Tielemans been brilliant for them. Some of the goals he scored, some of the creative play he's had has been fantastic. But at the same time, we just need numbers. We're not going to win the Premier League unless we deal with these adversities. And
we've got some tough games in January.
Yeah. You know, 2 against Man City, 1 against Spurs. Yeah, it's going to get tough. I can't believe Jesus is going to miss the 2
one of them Man City games is being moved to March, isn't it?
Yeah,
I hope so.
We've got United as well. We've got United as well in January.
Yeah, we have. Jijesh says we need players to add that work in the system. No point buying a bad man when we don't fit the system. He needs 2 players Yeah, they need the depth. Yeah, and as I said, I do know 2 clubs. I don't know what the other club is. I definitely know Barcelona called Tielemans' agent last week, and Tielemans said exactly the same thing in the summer. He said, "I don't want to go anywhere else. I've got a verbal agreement with Arsenal, and I want to see that through." And the only difference is we know that they just didn't want to pay the 25 million, because I think Arsenal were hoping to get him for 10 or 15 million. Funny that when they went and put 25 million up for Douglas Luiz, I didn't kind of really understand how that all worked out. But then Douglas Luiz
we don't
signed
play
an
Man
extension.
City in January at all. We've only got 3 Premier League games in January, which are Newcastle at home, Tottenham away, and Man United at home. So
that means they've moved that to the first week in February then.
So February is Everton, Brentford, and then on the second week in February we play Man City at home.
Yeah, so that's the game that we should have played in October, the one that was moved for PSV. Yeah, okay. So that means they've moved the other one back then. Wow.
Yeah, the second game is on. It's not on there, but it is in March. I'm pretty certain.
So, guys, closing comments.
No, it's in April.
Yeah, they've moved it back, mate.
26th of April.
They've moved it back.
That's like one of the last games, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they've done that for a reason, mate, because of the Premier League title. It's quite clear what they've done and why they've done it. Tony, closing comments, mate. Where's your head at with this whole
process,
thing?
bro. Trust the process. I never would have said that last year, but I'm having to do it because I actually don't know what this season holds. I really don't. I think January transfer window is the make or break of the club. I think the next few weeks, with our team being away in Dubai and seeing some of our players returning, like say Xhaka, Partey, who else is knocked out? I can't think of anybody else. But obviously, you know, the last 3 weeks of this month see players basically coming back from their international duty and reacclimatizing back into club football. The 3 games are going to be massive for us in the window, in terms of getting Eddie up and running, in terms of planning January transfer window, in terms of preparing ourselves for that first game against West Ham on the Boxing Day. So, you know, as I said, trust the process. Let's just hope Mikel gets it right, because if he gets it right spectacularly, the title's there for us.
Yeah, for real. Vincey?
I'm not trusting no process, man. Just let the youths them. I'm not trusting no process, man. Listen, I believe in these youths. Tony, you know how I play ball, man. Listen, when you lace up the boots, you go out there perform, and we've got some youngsters that just want to go out there and perform. So I believe in Arteta. I believe in his training. I believe in just giving these youths them the opportunity, play the system. They had a lot of pain last year, and these men want to correct that pain. So they're hungry to go out there and do the job, and I believe in them. So listen,
and they've got such a brotherhood that I've seen this happen in American football when a guy gets injured and the teams rally around that injured player. I don't see it too much in the Premier League, but I do get this vibe from Arsenal. It's from everything I've seen, from All or Nothing. From what I've talked about with players, football agents and things like that, they have a different vibe, you know, when they go around to each other's house on the weekend, and they have this togetherness. And I think that, you know, they've embraced Jesus in ways that we could only hope for. He's part of the brotherhood, and they can really use this. Arteta can really use this as a way to rally the troops, and I'm expecting a reaction. I really am. I'm expecting a reaction from this. And
they're going to fight.
And I hope they're going to fight
for him. They're going to fight for him. And this is the point. It's like adversity. You've got to understand what adversity does. And last night we saw it, and we had to go through the summer kicking ourselves as Arsenal fans. But you know what? The team have come out this season and said, you know what? We're representing now. And this is what I'm saying. It's not, I don't feel process. I feel these guys are actually saying, you know what? We got to come correct. Yeah, we let ourselves down last year. We let a lot of people down. Jesus has come in. He's taken Arsenal to a new level. Yeah. So these guys are going to come back from the World Cup. They're going to regroup in Dubai and they're going to come and do the business. So this is why I've just got faith in them. There's so much ability in this team. And as long as we're getting players coming back from fitness, eager, chomping at the bit, they're going to do what they need to do to get us over the line. 3 tough games in January. Let's not panic. But just let the youths free, man. Let them run up and do their thing, man, because they're just hungry.
I hear that, man. Guys, listen, thanks for joining me tonight. Guys, I do have to apologize that there's not been a lot of content on the channel. But it's just that I think we can all need a break and reflect. And look, and I'm enjoying the World Cup. Yeah. I go to work. I try to get back at around 3 o'clock. I sit in front of my television with my laptop, doing my work, calling my customers while the game's on. And I've been enjoying it. And we've been doing the live streams on the England game. So we're going to be here on Saturday doing the live stream for England and France. What a cracking game that's going to be. Tony, everyone's been asking for you on the live streams. But it'd be Saliba. I thought Saliba was going to play a little bit more, but it is what it is. And
no, I mean, look, you know, I'm glad that pretty much all of our players. I mean, I thought it was wonderful to see Martinelli getting extended time for Brazil. You know, considering that he's back up to Vinicius Junior. Wow.
Yeah.
Because I rate that guy as one of the top players in world football right now. And to see that Martinelli is his substitute, that just... Yeah. I'm gassed by that. I know Jiggy says I was gassing him a bit about us winning the league, but I'm gassed by Martinelli getting all those minutes for Brazil.
I'm happy that Saka got rested for Rashford as well. Rashford's normally a number 9. He can play on the wing or he can play a 9. But I was happy when Saka got rested as well.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Listen, that's it from us. And we'll see you on Saturday for the England game. I don't know whether Tony's doing because there's no Premier League. And we were thinking about doing a World Cup roundup on a Friday, but it doesn't look like it's happened because we're doing these games now. So we will probably see you on a Saturday, everybody. And let me know what your thoughts are, guys, in the comment section below. Kind of keep the conversation going because this is a real big concern for us now. And let's hope that we just get something done on Jesus and them guys can step up. I appreciate that, Jesus. I really do appreciate that, mate. Speak to you guys later, man. Peace out, guys. Big up to everybody. Big up yourselves.